Well. Another Coach's Corner, and we want to thank you in advance for joining us here as we get an up and running start on our topic today. Today our topic is suspects are armed and extremely dangerous. As we listen to the proponents regarding the gun debate in our country, we find that there are several people on both sides of the aisle. Some scream, "I want my guns." Others scream, "I want no such association with guns." Another part screams, "I may need protection." And the last part of our society screams, "I just want to grow up." We live in a diverse country, and so we have diverse values, but I'm wondering, who are we listening to? It seems that the ones who are victims have the lowest voice, and the ones who have money have the loudest. Well, I have the last say on this show. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Again, suspects are armed and extremely dangerous. If you see them, please do not approach, but call 911. Well, what are they suspects of? Suspects of having arms. Suspects of having arms. By all means, we realize and understand in this country that if the minority rose up, gun in tow, and said, we have to have automatic weapons because if the government comes in, if the government is unjust, if the minority, if the smallest voice of our community rose up to oppose the largest voice, it would be a different type of game on the field. But I want to just encourage those of you to understand that there are four levels of voices. There are those who really like to hunt. There are those who really want protection. There are those who really want no association with any kind of violent tools, whether it be naivete or whether it be just the fear. Then there are those for whom I speak, who say, I just want to grow up. It is a shame that the thing that we love, our rights, is killing us. The thing that we fight for, the thing that we've fought for, the thing that we have championed our American journey on, our rights, is killing us. So, technically speaking, when I say suspects are armed and extremely dangerous, I'm not talking about the gun owners. I'm talking about folks, the American journey, those of us who have rights. Now, that statement, suspects are armed and extremely dangerous, can be used for and against, pro and con. You thought I was just going to talk about gun debate, right? No, that was my opening line. We are armed with our rights. And sadly, while we protect the freedoms of a young country, because America is still rather young, we're seemingly within the confines of the American way. We are seemingly dying by the very love of our rights. And for many in our society, they are taking away the rights by exercising rights they don't have privy to. such as with the gun debate, just as an example. My right to a magazine clip gives me the comfort of having obliterated anything that is in my view should I choose or feel harmed. You know, if the majority heard those things from a minority, I can assure you we might have some balance in this country. That's what we need. We need small voices to rise up. The other side of the equation to rise up. But we're rising up for causes that's killing us. We rise up for abortion. While I have no say on where I stand, if we fight for something, we should be able to live by it. But assuredly, many people are armed and extremely dangerous with the right to get an abortion. Why are they dangerous? Because no one really talks, lays out scientifically, psychologically, psychosocially, the real truth. That even if you exercise the right to carry a gun or the right to your body and to do what you want to do with it, there is a potential of harm and danger. Not only for yourself, but for your family. Not only for your family, but for your friends. Not only for your family and your friends, for your constituency, those that you live among and represent perhaps. And not only for them, but for the community that you live in. And not only for the community, but for the state that you represent. Not only for the state, but for the country, for the love of goodness. Suspects are armed and dangerous. What are they armed with? Rights. They're armed with rights. We used to have a conscience in this country. We were always on the edge, and all it took was a push. We don't give a damn about most things. Just my rights. That is what makes you armed and extremely dangerous. Then again, there's the other spectrum. A minority of a people who don't feel that the American dream is catering to what they interpret the dream to be, and having further support in the news cycles of banks and other institutions that we are taught to respect and admire. And if you rob or commit fraud or commit forgery regarding these other institutions, you are breaking state and federal laws. But yet we see, we hear, we witness that these institutions can institutionally criminalize their affairs and walk away with billions and then turn to the political system to extract bailouts. And the minority voices question, what about my rights? And since they do not feel that they have the platform to articulate, to debate, to argue, to lobby, they take to the streets, and suspects thus become armed and extremely dangerous. What are we coming to in this country? You can't escape it. If you run over to Canada, it's going to be about the same. Leave here and go to London, it's no better. Try to escape to Ireland, maybe Australia. Give it all up and go to Africa, north or south. You can't find any aspect of life without the statement, subjects and suspects are armed and extremely dangerous. Any man making an attempt in any way to save his life still loses it. This is the penalty of a Christian nation. For when we give our lives in service, when we give our lives in service for the least of these, not for the greatest. Service was never intended for the greatest of our countrymen. Service has and always been meant for the least, those that can't speak for themselves, those that can't fight for themselves, those that don't have seemingly a seat at the table of negotiations. Lest the frustration of a voiceless people, lest the agitation of a lowly represented people reach a boiling point and collateral damage spills over into the rights. The apprehension increases. Suspects and subjects are armed with rights and are extremely dangerous for good and or for bad. What are you armed with? Easy to sit on the sidelines and criticize the gun debate and the presidential debate and the political debate, but what are you armed with? Because whatever you are armed with, you are extremely dangerous. And it depends on how you use what you're armed with. But I'm advising everyone that if you don't know how to use what you're armed with, I want to first advise you that you are extremely dangerous. And I want to advise those that come in contact with you that if you can't use your rights or your platforms for good, for service, that you are extremely dangerous. And if someone comes in contact with you, they should not approach you. Your vision may be too dangerous for the rest of us. And they should call 911. Satire this morning seems to be the way of the Coach's Corner. Presenting another way to look at life, presenting another avenue to look at our rights that we so demand. Because rights without service is not patriotism. For the patriotism of the American journey has always been enveloped with service to the least of us, that they also too may have a seat at the table. But we have served another purpose in the journey of Americanism. That journey is to make all you can and can all you get. That's our journey. And even then, the capitalist, well, suspects are armed with capitalistic ideologies and are extremely dangerous. But you can look at this in a good way. A child is armed with education, not only from the formal walls of his elementary or high school, but also from the walls of his community. So therefore, he is properly armed and extremely dangerous. And any fool or non-educated citizen that comes in contact with this child who is armed with an educational degree or educational track of process and success should call 911, because they wouldn't be able to stand in the presence. They wouldn't be able to keep up with the upward mobility of that child that is educated. So the armed and extremely dangerous theory can apply to anything. Pastors who have the churches, they have so great a following. Followers from the east, west, north, and south, followers dedicated to their bishop. I wonder what will happen when those pastors who are armed with the word of God and are extremely dangerous cannot practice their faith openly in America. Well, we're headed that way. Of course, we're headed that way. You can't disagree with the social agenda now without being persecuted. So those who want to enjoy their sensuality and their sexual preferences have now a platform in the political structure of the country. And soon they will have the finalization of their platform in the legal structure of the country. And anyone who opposes them, who disagrees with them, who has a varying possible scenario of the philosophy of cultural sexual identification will be ostracized and persecuted. Thus, those with those kinds of rights and those kinds of theories now have become armed and extremely dangerous. And those on the other side, who have the word of God, who damn everyone to hell and say, unless you repent, you shall not enter the taste the kingdom. You see, so we all are subjects and suspects, armed and extremely dangerous. One totes his rights and the other one totes the right to enjoy the right. It becomes almost like a circus. America's journey is the best Barnum and Bailey. You don't need a ticket, just watch. Turn on the news, listen to the radio. Look out the window, open the door, walk down the street, drive down the highway. You'll see the biggest Barnum and Bailey circus acts of all time. Because walking around, riding, standing and sitting, talking and even in the silence, suspects and subjects are armed and extremely dangerous. It's also that way for good things. If you are good looking and got a banking body, as they say, you're armed with healthy chests and healthy breasts. You're armed with a bad to the bone, muscle tone, fit from top to bottom. But you use your body and your flesh as a weapon, taunting and tempting others to step away from their covenants and commitments and enjoy a taste or two. You see how even you can be a suspect or a subject, armed and extremely dangerous. You become extremely dangerous when that which you prefer spills over into the preferred or preference of others. And that which you prefer now has extended behavior beyond the norm. Oh, I'm just ranting and raging to try to get us to the center. But I know that we won't get there. So I rant anyhow. Sharing from our heart as coach, whose job it is to get people to the finish line, whose job it is to get people to stay in the race and don't quit and don't give up, no matter how hard it is, no matter what the struggle, no matter how deep you may find yourself in debt, whether it be emotional debt or financial debt. Just to put your stake in the ground, put a line across the sand and say, this is it. I must run this race. I must finish well. That's my job, is to get those people across the finish line. You're so busy trying to be first, you ain't even running. You're so busy complaining about being in last place, you can't keep up. I'd rather be in the race, on the track, headed toward the finish line, than to be counting who's in front of me and who do I need to keep in back of me. We all are suspects and subjects, armed and extremely dangerous, some way, shape. form. My encouragement to you today is check yourself before you wreck yourself. I heard in a news report about a particular district that was Republican. Actually, I heard about two districts. The first was Republican, where a tornado had touched down. The devastation was as such that few died, but living will not be as it was. In the mouth of one witness, she said, "We lost everything." The conclusion of the newscast echoed the governor's representation, the words therein, which said, "We just want to continue our search and rescue, and we don't want to put a dollar amount on the catastrophe as of yet. And we also want to measure whether or not this would qualify for federal aid." I thought to myself, why would you want to do that? Let's keep the government smaller. America can't afford to help people. But then there was also another news report that stated in a Democratic region certain things, certain social norms were changing. And the people hailed from the streets, "We want our stamps," or "We want our Medicaid," or and on and on and on. You see, everybody has a challenge. Everyone has a challenge in America. We all are suspects and subjects. We don't have a heaven or hell to put anybody in, but we have a lot of persuasive power here. And that makes us dangerous. And life, the American life has proven that no sector of society can truly, even though momentarily seeming it is ignored, it cannot truly be ignored. The hip-hop movement has made more progress in accessing platforms worldwide. But the hip-hop movement, in my view, though I'm not ready to hand over an indictment, it is suspect at raising a consciousness for good, thereby making the hip-hop movement, as the rock movement was prior to that, and perhaps in some cases still are armed and extremely dangerous. The hip-hop movement now having a seat at the table from having a conscience sits at the table without one, making the hip-hop movement suspect, armed, and extremely dangerous. Because though I have the right to write what I want and sing from the mountaintop, when your rights infringes on the preference and the rights of others, you become a threat. And there are those who listen to the songs about sensuality and sexuality, which seems to be all that we write about these days, and they cannot make a distinct difference as to what is true and what is fantasy and what is real and what is not, what is good and what is bad. All they hear is feel good, do this to feel good, do that to feel good, and do this and do that. They don't have the protectorates in their systematic journey, those balance moderators that can interpret things for them, often because their parents perhaps trying to keep up economically, or perhaps their parents are so young and inexperienced. There's a plethora of reasons, but the point of the matter is this: that we are all in some shape, way, or form suspects and subjects, and thereby armed and extremely dangerous. And we should watch what we do with our rights to enjoy rights. We should consider that if someone approaches us, our ideology, whether it be religious or political, whether it be educational or leisure, recreational, would approaching you give cause to call 911? In other words, would I be in deep crap if I'm dealing with you? Would my life hang in the balance if I'm around your constituency? If that's the case, and in many cases the case has been made, then you have just proven that you are a suspect, armed and extremely dangerous. I am a subject. Subjects of the journey are we all. Suspects of particular violations within that journey are we also. Which one are you? Subject or suspect? Many have been labeled suspect by the color of their skin, or even by the region. You know, there's this class warfare that goes on in business. Somebody say, well, their economy is doing extremely well, and they pointed to Wall Street, and Wall Street is doing the best. So in other words, Wall Street has to do well first before Main Street. This is what we've said in our policy and in our practice. Well, we're going to see. We're going to see if the armed and extremely dangerous Wall Street can escape the arm of the protectorate. Or do we continue to call 911 in the future? Jargon, satire, criticism, just changing how we look at things and systems. Just giving you some thought-provoking, aggregating jargon to maybe wake you up to understand it's not just them, it's me. There was an old prayer as I close. The prayer came in the form of a song. The song said, it's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not my mother, not my father, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Got a long way to go, but come a long ways, and up to now, I'm still standing in the need of prayer. Thanks so much for listening, engaging in my silly assertion of life. Till next time, follow on Spreaker, Twitter, Facebook, Spreecast, Voicecast. Thank you so very much. Facebook, on the website www.sibnradio-by Select USA TV. Thank you again, and don't forget, take care of yourself. See you next time. You're listening to the sounds of your lifestyle improvement station.